And that's what biodynamics is particularly acute at, is let's really make this something that's heightened in its quality. Let's go for really high quality, really time and labor intensive methodologies, certainly. But if what we're trying to do is really increase as much as possible the health of what we're growing and the nutritional value of what we're growing, this diversification of soil, microflora, microfaunal, is a really important place to focus our attention and to put effort and energy into it. And so that's what biodynamics puts a fair amount of effort and energy into, that differentiates it from all the other systems, are the preparations and the compost infusions, and many other things that differentiate it. But those are when we talk about compost, the main distinction. And that's going to be what I'm going to compare, these different composting techniques. So with biointensive, no animals in the compost, no animal fertilizer or animals themselves. And a lot of farms, if you have a sheep in the wintertime die out in the middle of the pasture, they're just going to go mulch it and let it compost right there. That was a pretty common way for people to deal with dead animals on farms for a long time, was just mulch them where they lay and let them just turn into soil right there, rather than trying to bury it. A lot more effort to bury a horse than it is to just find a ton of hay and throw it over the dead horse and let it decompose. If it starts to stink, throw some more hay on it. And that's true of all composting techniques. Composting, your ratios can be as high as 30-to-1 when we're talking about nitrogenous to carbonaceous. So when we're talking nitrogen or green matter, will be either grass cuttings or your kitchen scraps that you're adding to your compost pile. Every time you add kitchen scraps to a compost pile, you want to spread it out. You don't want to just leave it in a sandcastle mound. You want to spread it out a little bit, and then you want to put a lot of carbon on it. The more carbon you put on it, the better, because what carbon does is it cranks up soil processes and it cranks up the rate of decay.
Okay, so what are you calling? Okay, so nitrogen material, we're talking plant material.
Right, nitrogen material is green matter that hasn't decayed yet, and it's going to need carbon in order for it to begin to decay rapidly. Yeah, grass cuttings, when they first come off and are green, are nitrogenous. If you dried them out and let them turn brown, they would be carbonaceous.
Okay.
So I'm pretty laissez-faire about what I'll allow to go into compost. I'll put in bones and cheese and meat and all kinds of stuff. You know, rubber bands that are around broccoli, whatever. It all ends up in there. And then you screen it and pull that stuff out. And I like using pure compost for my seed start as well. So I'm screening it for that. But so you want to layer it. The key thing with compost, and what a lot of people get wrong with compost, is not having enough carbon on hand. And you end up with a stinky, slimy, smelly pile that nobody wants to be around and nobody wants near their house, and that's what they end up thinking composting is. They're like, oh, composting. It's like this stinky, slimy little hill of stuff. I don't want to do that. So the most important thing to keep that from happening is having a lot of carbonaceous material on hand that you can readily throw onto that pile at any point. And every time you put on kitchen scraps, you're layering it with a good amount of carbonaceous material.
So what sort of ratio did you mention?
I was saying you can go as high as 30-to-1. 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen.
Wow.
I would not err any lower than 2-to-1. Okay. I wouldn't go any lower than that. That's when you're going to get that stinky pile.
Right.
The other thing I'll do...
But it's sort of, self-correcting, because it'll tell you.
Yeah,
right.
It will. And what you can do if it starts to smell is agitate it with a digging fork and then throw a bunch of straw or leaves or carbonaceous material on it, and then it'll stop smelling.